You have all the bikepacking gear that you think you're going to need for your trip. Now you need to know how you're actually going to take it with you. And apparently it's not quite as simple as just stuffing it in.
There's a number of different styles of bikepacking bag. Each one mounts in a different place around the bike and is good for carrying different types of things. One thing to consider when packing your bike is that the extra weight will affect the handling. So weight distribution, and even weight distribution at that, is very important so you don't skew it too much.
Right, where are we going to start, mate?
Well, let's start with the frame pack, but before we put anything on our bikes, it's also good to consider putting protective tape on because they will move a little bit and they will scuff your paint. And it is very disappointing to find you've just scuffed your best bike.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Learning from lessons there.
Right, so frame bag.
The frame bag is obviously mounted within the frame. The benefit of this is that it's very well secured because it's got lots of mounting points. You can get a half frame pack like this, or you could get a whole frame bag, which will actually take up the whole triangle. The kind of items you want to put in here are the heavier items and things that you want to access easily while you're on your bike. So arm warmers, jackets, and maybe tools.
Okay, and I guess because the weight is central over the bike, it's going to help with that weight distribution thing, because that, of all places, is the best place to...
Exactly. You're going to have quite a lot of control over that weight, so that's why we go for the heavier items there.
Okay, right then. So following Josh's advice, I'm going to go for my toolkit and inner tubes, pump, and then those warm cycling kit items, so like arm warmers, leg warmers, gilet, cap, and also a spork as well, which I think I need to put in there because it's long and thin, but also pointy. I don't want it spiking anything else. There we go, like a glove.
There is one point though with the frame pack that you need to be aware of. It is obviously inside your triangle, which is also where you're going to put your water. You're quite lucky because you've got a big enough frame to accommodate bottles and a frame pack. However, if you ride a smaller frame, it might be an issue. Now there's a few ways around this. You can mount bottles elsewhere on the bike. So some bikes have mounting point underneath, or you can actually get mounting points on the frame, on the fork here, so you can hold the bottles in front. However, if you don't have either of those, you can put a water bladder inside your frame pack, or you can run a full frame pack, and then you can carry the stuff you've got in there, plus extra water.
Yeah, to be fair, even on this medium frame, I have had to change my bottle cages for some very old aluminium ones, so I can squish the bottle in from the side, because clearance is pretty tight there, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had the same problem with my large frame as well, so I've got side entry bottle cages, so it is a very important thing to consider.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, next up, seat pack?
Yeah, let's go for the seat pack. So the benefit of the seat pack is that you can fit quite large volume items in it. However, there are some drawbacks. The weight is quite high up on the bike, and you may remember we spoke about the balance of the bike. So if you have too much weight up, it's going to swing the bike around more, and it will make it harder to corner and to throw the bike around.
It's quite a dilemma then, because this is the biggest bag on the bike, right? It's, 15 litres plus.
Exactly, so we need to put in there the bulkiest lightweight item.
Okay. Sleeping bag?
I think so.
All right. Now, cool little pro tip from Josh here. You've made me roll my bivvy bag, my sleeping bag, and my mat all in one, right?
Exactly, yeah. Now, it's kind of quite specific to this particular trip we're on because we're only going to be sleeping out one night and we haven't really got that much stuff. So we're utilising the space of the saddle pack and putting the light item in there, but it's not really packed up too well. The benefit is though, when we come to bivvy tomorrow night, we can just roll it out quickly and we don't have to get cold and spend loads of time putting everything together and unpacking it. Vice versa, when we start in the morning, we can just roll it out quickly, shove it in and get going before we get cold.
Okay. So we can stuff this one. This is the bit we're allowed to stuff.
You're allowed to stuff this one.
Great stuff. Stuff. Hey! Brumps.
You all right, mate?
Just about, mate.
Oh, nice. I just went and got a coffee while I was waiting.
Right.
So you're all packed and ready then, are you?
Well, no, not quite, because I did wonder whether this was also a good place to stash my rain jacket, because that needs to be easily accessible, but it won't fit in the frame bag. And actually that roll top at the back makes it super quick. And then also, with the same idea, obligatory bog roll.
Definitely. Just remember the plastic bag though.
Plastic bag from a bog roll. Right, got it.
One thing to remember with the saddle pack is that it is quite high up and it can swing a little bit if it's not packed really well. So it's important to make sure you stuff all your stuff right to the bottom of it so it's supported here. Now we're riding these 3T Explorer frames, which are kind kind of aero and have this nice squared off seat post. The benefit is that it actually stops the bag swinging quite a lot. Now, not all bikes have that, so it's important to really tighten the straps up. After a few hours on the bike as well, everything kind of settles into place and the straps do kind of like move a little bit, so you may need to just tighten it up again to make sure you're not swinging everywhere. Am I going to get another coffee, Si?
No, I'm nearly there. What was the pro tip? You stick your knee in.
Yeah. If you put your knee underneath the back of the pack, you can actually push everything up into the saddle, and then you can really get some leverage on the straps. And as you can see, that's pretty stable and it's not going to swing everywhere.
That's a morning's work well spent, I think.
The good thing as well is if it does rain, it's like a nice big mudguard.
Not much left now, Josh, but also not much space left either.
No, so we're going to have to go for the bar bag. Now, bar bags are actually pretty good at fitting quite a lot of stuff in them. They're also fairly good for heavier items as well, because the weight is kind of controlled between the bars. It will make the steering feel a little bit heavier, but it's something you soon get used to. The other benefit of having the weight over the front wheel is, as you found out on our rough, loose, gravelly descents yesterday, it actually puts a bit more grip on the front tyre, which is a benefit. Yeah,
it did feel really secure, didn't it? So for the bar bag then, this is the prime place for what, casual kit that's left and any kind of extra warm stuff that...
Exactly, yeah. So on this particular trip, we've got our casual clothes for the evenings. So I like to pack them all together in one bag. Then if you stay in a hotel like we have a couple of times, or you're camping, you can just take the bag off at the end of the day and everything you need is in one place.
Cool, okay. Now, one thing I found out with this one is that you can get into the bag at both ends. So I've got warm cycling kit and my jacket at one end and my casual clothes at the other end. So depending on which I need, I can do it instantly. But then also, I'm still stuck with my saucepan and my mug and my coffee making paraphernalia. So am I allowed to stick that in there as well?
You can fit it wherever you want.
Thanks, mate. Right then, Josh, we are very nearly there.
Yeah, most of your stuff is now packed up in one of the 3 main bags. However, we've still got a few little items left, and this is where things like top tube bags come into play. Now, top tube bags are actually really good, contrary to popular belief. They're good for things like tools, money, your phone, charging cables, your passport, even floral battery packs.
If you're going to have a battery pack, you might as well make it pretty. To be fair, my limited bike packing experience so far, I will admit the top tube bag has been remarkably useful. So yeah, passport, floral battery pack, cables, and food as well.
Yeah, and then we've got a few bits left over. So this is your wash kit.
It is indeed.
Sometimes little extra items like that do crop up and they don't really have a proper home, but that's when things like bungees and extra straps on the outside come into play, because it's not the most valuable items, but you want to kind of get hold of it. So if you just put it under a bungee, that'll stay put. And then when you need it, you can grab it easily. Done. And there we go, sorted. I think we're ready to go bike packing again.
Yeah, it's taking so long, mate. Should we wait and go tomorrow?
Well, let's just bivvy out here. Looks like you're all ready then, Si. It's looking quite neat.
Thanks.
So one thing to bear in mind, as well as where you pack your stuff, is the order in which you pack it. Obviously, if you pack your rain jacket right at the bottom of your saddle pack, that's going to be a bit of a pain if you get caught in a rainstorm. So you need to think about when and where you're going to need things. So my advice would be, if you start off and you're wearing extra layers, not really applicable right here, right now, make sure you take them off and put them into your bag in the order you take clothes off. That way, when you want to start putting layers on again later in the day, you put it on in the right order. So you start with arm warmers, gilet, leg warmers, so you pack them the other way around.
I'm guessing as well that you are inevitably going to make mistakes when you're packing stuff the first time, but when you realise that putting your roll of toilet roll in the middle of your handlebar bag is a disastrous place to put it, and you will end up doing a Tom de Moulin, then you only do that kind of thing once.
Exactly. Speaking from experience, that is the #1 lesson you learn.
So that's my setup there. Now you've got 1 or 2 extra bits that you're carrying as well, so I'd be really interested to know whether you've actually done anything differently.
So yeah, fundamentally, my setup is pretty much the same as yours. I've got the frame bag, the saddle pack with my sleeping gear, and my casual stuff in my front bag. However, the volume's slightly smaller here, so I've got a few different bits to help me take everything I need. So you may notice my stove and pot are on the top there on the special little holder, and that works out quite well. I couldn't fit my mug in my frame bag, so I've hung it on the side.
Shall I do that too, to be cool? Is that like a cool thing? Have your mug on the outside?
I'm not particularly cool, but it's quite practical.
Practical's cool though. I'm going to do that.
There we go.
Okay, and what about, so you've got a feed bag on your bars as well, so that's different to mine.
Yeah, so you've got a large top tube bag. Instead of one big bag, I've got two smaller ones. So I've got a small one here for tools, things like toothpaste, my emergency tubeless tyre repair kit, hand sanitizer, things that I may need sort of quickly in an emergency or situation. And then I've got a feed pouch here, and this is quick and easy to access while I'm on the go, and I can put in all the food I need to eat on the bike. So I've got some nice cakes that have been going nice and stale in the sun.
Nice. So effectively, we are the same, except your feed bag is kind of like my top tube bag, and your top tube bag is like half my frame bag, and then obviously, yeah, I still need to do this.
Exactly, yeah. One thing about bikepacking is that there is no golden rule. You kind of have to make it work for you. If you follow these basic principles, that will be a good start. But I've sort of settled on this, this system just through kind of loads of trial and error over sort of a few trips. So quite often people may find that things work differently for them. And essentially, if it works for you, then that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and duration of trip as well is going to add different kind of...
Exactly, we've been pretty, we've taken some liberties with the amount of space we've taken up with our sleeping gear. For example, when I went on a longer kind of 6-month trip last summer, I had loads of casual clothes and shoes and stuff like that. And then I had to really compact everything as much as I could because I needed to fit more stuff in there.
Okay. Now, the last thing is waterproofness. Not such a big deal here in Morocco, but then there is a reason why we chose Morocco as opposed to Great Britain for our first adventure into bikepacking. But were we to be bikepacking in a wetter climate, or in fact somewhere with a risk at all of rain, what are you going to do about keeping stuff dry?
Well, you can get some frame packs with tape seams and waterproof material. So these particular ones are waterproof, okay. So it will keep the worst of the moisture out. However, it pays to be sensible and put all your dry clothes in a separate dry bag inside your bags, just in case. There's nothing worse than finishing a long day out in the saddle, getting to a nice dry place and then realising all your clothes are soaking wet.
No, that sounds awful, actually. It's pretty neat. Yeah, well, here's to Morocco and the Atlas Mountains. Right, thanks Josh for those tips. That is absolutely cracking. And so far, one day into this trip, apart from the toilet roll, everything's been perfect. So there we go, one lesson learned anyway. Do make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you're enjoying the bikepacking content here on GCN. And if you'd like a little bit more information on exactly what we're taking, Josh very kindly talked me through it when we were actually back in the UK before we'd come out. So if you want to see that video, click just down there.